Today I'm going to talk about all those silly things that financial advisors say that may be not right. And you've probably heard a lot of these things because some financial planners will say, I know all this stuff and I am so smart and you need to listen to me and here's why. Well, I'm actually going to prove a lot of those things wrong and actually share with you personal things that I've heard financial planners say that are not true. And this will help you understand and be on the lookout of things that you hear so you know not to pay attention to that. And it'll also help you understand if the person you're working with or the person you're looking to work with truly knows their stuff or not. Because we see a lot of advisors that act like they know their stuff, but really they don't. And their clients really suffer from that because most people are not able to tell and understand if someone is truly doing what's best for them or not.
Joe knows taxes.
Joe knows the market.
Joe knows Social Security.
Joe knows income planning.
Joe knows pickleball? No.
This is Joe Knows Retirement.
So let's start off this podcast today with the thought of what things financial advisors say that are not true. One thing that we see is that they say I'm not a tax professional, which means that I can't help you with taxes and you need to go see a CPA. And I just don't believe that that is the right answer for financial planners, because understand that when you look to give tax planning guidance, simply telling someone to do a Roth or traditional is technically tax planning advice, right? And so that if you say I'm not a tax professional, I can't help with any of that stuff, well, then why are you recommending that to do that? And understand that a lot of things that you do if you manage investments have to do with taxes. If you're managing a non-qualified investment, you're making tax decisions by, reinvesting those dividends, or, selling off specific stocks, which cause a taxable event. And so I don't buy that when advisors say, I'm not a tax professional, go see your CPA. Now, CPAs are important. It's important for an advisor to work with a CPA, but that's because the CPA does a tax prep, but it's the financial planning job to do tax planning like Roth conversions or tax loss harvesting and different more advanced tax strategies. You can't leave that into the CPA's hands or it won't get done. And so I can't stand when I hear that, especially with advisors who are charging a full fee. And so if you're a professional, if your financial planner ever says, hey, I'm not a tax professional, I would tell you, find someone new. That's just a big red flag in my mind. And that's one thing that I've heard before that I don't think is right. A second thing that I've heard before is the Roth will not grow as much and you lose growth over time. This is a big misconception. I've done another YouTube video on this explaining the impact over time being about the same if you do a Roth or not, assuming that taxes are the same. And so with a Roth, first and foremost, you can invest a Roth in whatever you wish to. So let's look at money market, for example. Money market is a interest-bearing account. There's no chance of loss, and you could invest that in your IRA. And let's say you get a 3% return, or you can invest that in your Roth IRA and you could get a 3% return. The Roth, the IRA, is just a tax shelter. It's like the house. And then within the house is how you can pick to invest it. And you have the same options in a Roth IRA to invest than you do in an IRA. So the fact that the Roth will not grow as much just doesn't make sense because you can invest in the same things. And the fact that you lose growth over time, well, not necessarily. Now, where many people may get caught up as well, if I have to pay the taxes on it now, I have less money, and now I'm not. What's the break even for this to grow to? There is no break even, because if you have that $100,000 in the IRA, how much of it is actually yours? Can you go to the store and cash out $100K and all that's yours? No, you've got to pay taxes on it. So now let's say tax rate's at 25%, you only have $75,000. Okay, so let's say that you decide to move this money to a Roth and you pay the taxes now. How much is into the Roth? $75,000, right? So some people may think on paper that $100,000 says $100,000 in an IRA. The Roth only says $75,000 on paper. But remember, it doesn't matter what's on paper. It matters the actual value. And so if you have to pay taxes on this $100K, well, maybe it's the same value as a Roth, and if they grow over time, it's going to be about the same. So that's what I just don't understand when people say that. The only thing you need to look at when it comes to a Roth is, are you doing it at a higher or lower tax bracket now than what you'll be in the future? And what we see for most people who have been diligent savers will actually be in a higher tax bracket in the future due to RMDs, required minimum distributions, and also Social Security, maybe a pension. And so what we're trying to do now is trying to plan for that now so we can get that growth tax-free, so we don't have to take out as much money in retirement at higher tax rates. And if we do want to take out money, we can take it out from a Roth, which is tax-free. Again, a Roth isn't perfect for everyone. You shouldn't put all your money to a Roth, but a balanced diversification between those accounts can be very fruitful. And just simply that whole fact that it won't grow as much that's a myth. That's not necessarily true. And so an advisor's saying that, they probably don't understand how all this works, and they haven't dug deep enough to really learn or understand it. So that would be my advice on that one. The third thing that I hear financial advisors say that's not true is all capital gains are at 15%. Now, I actually worked with an advisor who thought this was the case, and I had to really educate him, and he's been in the industry for many years. And I go, you understand that there's a 0% capital gains bracket, and that this client, when they take that money out, they told that client, hey, you'll pay 15%. I was like, no, they're in the 0% bracket. They'll actually pay $0. And this is actually a strategy you should have done over the last few years, because they've been in the 0% capital gains bracket over the last few years. So understand that capital gains, if your income is up to about $120,000 if you're married, then you're probably going to be in that 0% bracket where you could sell off some of your capital gains, some of your stocks you've owned for a while, and not pay any tax on any of that growth. Whereas, while you're working, if your income's over, $120,000, for example, well, now you're in the 15% bracket. And most people think that that's the case for everyone, but it's not for everyone. If you're in retirement, you have a lower income, or maybe you're in a gap year where you took a year off, well, those are all good years to utilize that 0% capital gains bracket. So if they're not looking and seeing and paying attention to your capital gains tax rate and how that works, then that could be a red flag. And I see a lot of advisors that don't think that far into investment planning and tax planning and miss that. So just be aware that there's more capital gains brackets than just a 15 or 20% bracket. There's also that 0%, which I love, because zero is power, right? Zero is free, and we love that. So just be aware of that strategy there. So the fourth thing that I've heard financial advisors say is pay off your low interest debt. And I agree with that. I think that can be good for some people, but I don't know if it's always the case, right? Because let's say you have a mortgage that's at 2% right now, and let's say you could go to the bank and get an account at 5%. Well, you're basically borrowing money. You're basically making money to borrow money, right? Because if you borrow $100,000 at 2% and you take that money and you put it in the bank and get 5%, well, you make $5,000 a year. You only owe $2,000 a year, $3,000 a year. Well, who's winning? Well, you just made $2,000 off that investment, right? Basically is how you look at it. And so what we like to see with a lot of our clients is, hey, you may not necessarily have to pay off that mortgage or pay off that auto loan that's really low. Maybe we just go for the ride and we take that extra money that we would have taken to pay it off and we just invest it and get a higher return, is a thought. Now, if you're just completely say, I want to be debt free and that's a big goal of yours, hey, just pay it off. You're going to be missing out on some money, but if it's more important for you to not have any payments on your plate, or you want to be debt free, then go for it. I see nothing wrong with that, especially if you've done the right thing up to this point. But if you're really trying to maximize things mathematically, then we wouldn't necessarily pay off the low interest debt. We'd let it ride and pay it off over time, So that's something to think about with your situation. And then you just basically save the money on the side. And if you do get to a point in the future where you do want to pay it off, well, it's already there. You've gained more money. You just pay it off in the future. So, but it just gives you more flexibility to use that money as well right now too. So hopefully that's a help one for you. The fifth thing I want to talk about that financial advisors say I don't think is true is you should put all your money into an annuity. And I've done another video like this before, talking about annuities, the pros and cons, the good and bad, and all that fun stuff. But if someone's telling you to put 70, 80, 90% of your money in an annuity, that's typically usually a red flag to me, because typically with an annuity, you've got to tie up your money for a period of time, which isn't always a bad thing. But if it's all your money, what if you need some money? What if an emergency happens? And do you really want all your assets just in one place? So that would be a big red flag. And again, that's mostly going to come from people who are insurance salespeople, because that's the only way they get paid, and they want to maximize the value they can get out of your situation, because they don't get to see everyone out there, and they got to make sure they can get paid, right? Which is unfortunate, but it's a reality for some of those people out there that just do that. So just be aware of that. Just be aware that they're obviously going to get a big commission for that. And some of those people aren't fiduciaries, which means they don't have to act in your best interest, which means they can put whatever they want as long as they can prove that it's somewhat suitable for you, which isn't necessarily the best interest standard. So just be aware of that. All right, the next thing I want to talk about that I've heard financial advisors saying the wrong thing is when they say you should do cash value life insurance. Now, cash value life insurance can be right for the right person, but what we see from most people is that may not necessarily make sense, especially when they say to position it in a way for tax-free income in retirement. Now, most of the people we work with are typically between the ages of about 55 to 70, which means that they're at a point where if they go to get life insurance, the cost of living cost of insurance is going to be pretty high. And so that's going to eat out that cash value, which is not going to lead to as much cash value growth, which typically is what you could take that tax-free income from. And so it may not be as attractive for them. Now, if you're in that range though, and you're looking for tax-free death benefit, or looking for tax-free long-term care, well, life insurance can make sense, but I wouldn't be positioning it for someone at that age typically and saying, hey, we can get tax-free income from this. because it's just not a reality knowing what the cost of insurance is for someone at that age. So that's what I just be aware of. Again, those typically come from insurance salespeople, so just be aware. And a lot of people will sell that as being this great, big, old, awesome opportunity: tax-free income, tax-free death benefit, tax-free long-term care, protection, index credits. If the market's down, you can still make money, and it's an escalator. There's all these different things they say. Typically, you can find those guys at steak dinners or just pitching that product. And if that's the case, be very careful. But it can make sense in the right place, but I just typically wouldn't use it for what most people are looking to use it for, to make it more attractive for you to buy it, get their commission, and move on. So just be aware of that. Another thing that we hear often is fee only is the best. And we see a lot of firms that market this very strongly. This isn't like a big red flag to me. I just don't understand it. And so what fee only means is that you only charge a fee for planning, or you only charge an assets under management fee. It means you can't get paid commission. So I like that concept for some things. So when it comes to investments and securities, I agree that advisors should not get commissions off that. That should be a fee, because then you have the flexibility of offering whatever investments on that side that are going to be best for the client. So that's how we structure things. I don't believe you should get paid commissions on the security side of things. Now, there is commissions that you get on the insurance side of things, and everyone has insurance to a degree, right? Life insurance, long-term care insurance, disability insurance, annuities. There's all these different types of insurance products that not everyone needs, but a lot of people have, maybe one or two of those to give them the protection that we're looking for in retirement. And so what we would see from a fee-only advisor is they have no incentive of getting their client covered with insurance, right? If that's what they need, they're not going to do it. Medicare plans are not going to help them with that. And so what we're seeing is that there's a gap, right? And this sounds really good, but what if you need that? And so if you're working with a fee-only advisor and you say, hey, I need some life insurance in place, so if my spouse passes, I'm good to go. Well, they're going to have to send you down the street because they're not licensed to do so. And then you got to go talk to a guy who doesn't know your situation. You got to fill them in. You got to hope they don't sell you something they don't need. You got to hope they do what's right for you. And so that's why with us personally, we are insurance licensed here, because we want to make sure that our clients have a one-stop shop. And so I don't know why, we can't necessarily call ourselves fee only. We're fee based because of that. But I don't know why, we'd be fee only and not be able to offer things that our clients need. As long as we're not just selling insurance to sell insurance and get a commission, as long as we're doing what's in the client's best interest, I don't know why we wouldn't have that in our toolbox. So I don't understand this fee only. People will market it, and it could be a good thing, but it's just like there's limitations to it. And so just be careful of that is ultimately what I'm saying. I like the idea of working with a fee-based advisor, so you can have all things out there and have anything you can choose from. Would be what my recommendation is there for you. But I would not work with just someone who only does insurance only, and that's what we talked about today. So anyway, so that's the idea with that. So just be careful. That fee only could just be a marketing pitch to just try to make you feel better. Something else that I've heard is 10% return is better than a 7% return in retirement, and this one's a little more sophisticated, a little more advanced, but in retirement returns are a little different. So you could get a 10% return, but then the next year you could get negative 20%. And there's something in retirement called sequence of returns risk. And that's simply retiring when the market's down. And so if the market's down in retirement and you need to take out money, that's what we call a double loss. So a double loss is where market's down, take out money, and the question becomes, do you have enough time to make it up? And so although a 10% return may be better, but if a 10% return goes up and down more times and it goes down and you're taking it out during those times, you're going to end up with less money over time. First, let's just say you get a 7% consistent return with no downturns. Well, you're not going to risk that running out of money early because of that double loss concept. And so if the 7% portfolio has less risk and is more consistent, you actually may end up with more money. I know that's hard to believe, but run the numbers for yourself to see how that works. And so what my point here is that in retirement, we may not want to take on as much risk because of those ups and downs can be so costly when needing to withdraw money. Whereas if we just go slow, steady, consistent over time, keep up with inflation, make sure we get enough growth there, but also have that protection in place to avoid that sequence of returns risk, we may end up with more money over time. And so we typically see that advisors who are not retirement focused don't understand this concept, because in the accumulation phase, 10% is obviously better than 7% because you're not taking distributions. But when you're taking distributions, taking it out during a down market can be very, very costly, even if your all-in return would be higher because you got to factor in withdrawals. Another thought I see from advisors that I don't agree with is taking out money when the market's down. So not having an income plan, basically, and this goes off of that point I just made, is, that some advisors have all their money in stocks and bonds, and they'll just say, when the market's down, what will they say? You've probably heard it before. Just wait it out. Everything will be fine. Well, when you're in retirement, do you really have the time to wait it out, or do you really want to wait it out? Do you really feel comfortable waiting it out? Yeah, it may come back, but do you really want to be concerned those few years that it takes to come back? And so what we really want to make sure people have is what's called a solid, rock solid income plan where, hey, they know where they're pulling out their money. It's going to be protected. It's going to be there. It's going to be predictable. It's going to be consistent to ensure that we aren't guessing if the market's going to be down or not. And with our clients, if I had to tell our clients, hey, don't worry, the market's down, just don't take out any money this year in retirement, I don't think our clients would like that very much. They'd probably get a little upset. So we always want to make sure we structure our plans with a protection bucket and a growth bucket. If they're going to need money in the short term, we want that money coming from protection, just to ensure that we don't risk that sequence of returns risk, and ensure that they can, be comfortable taking out that money. And yeah, the money on the growth side, that is down and that will come back. But as long as we have buying time in that protect bucket, then we can wait for that to come up over time. Another fun one that we see often is mutual funds, right? So if your advisor is really saying mutual funds are great and you got to do this, active management, I mean, could they be right? Yeah, but only about 50% of the time. So 50% of mutual funds underperform the market and obviously come at a higher expense. So with our clients here, we mostly use just individual stocks and ETFs, which are like mutual funds, but just much lower costs. And the reason why we do that is because we do the active management ourselves. So our clients just don't have to pay extra beyond the management fee, and they don't have to pay 2 fees, basically. So with mutual funds, again, they're higher costs. So you just have to be aware of that. And there is good mutual funds out there, don't get me wrong, but, why pay double if you don't need to, especially if they're not, they may not even outperform. So that would be something I just be aware of, and just understand advisors that push mutual funds may get compensated more that specific company. I know there's a lot of companies in the industry that get, paid more based on offering specific type of investments. American Funds is one of them. I won't mention the company, but there's just many types of those types of agreements that, again, it's not best for the client, but it's best for the organization to offer those investments, which I don't personally think is right. I think at the end of the day, we need to offer what's in the client's best interest, regardless of the situation. All right, this last one I've heard another advisor say that I don't think is true. It's actually very personal. And this one may become out more of a rant from me because I just don't agree with him, and I think this is ridiculous, but this actually came from an advisor here in Columbus, Ohio, that we've stolen multiple clients from. And at the end of the day, the reason why I've stolen those clients is because he doesn't necessarily doing the planning that the client needs here. So obviously not going to mention any names, but this advisor told our clients that came over to us that you shouldn't work with this firm because that Joe guy, he's younger, he doesn't have 40 years of experience like me. It's just saying all this stuff of why you shouldn't work with a firm like ours. And I just sit there and I laugh and I just think, wow, what are we doing here? Why are we talking bad about a firm who is going above and beyond for their clients and has a team that is structured in place? Like I have my CFP, for example. I've went through all the rigorous coursework to show that I know my stuff. And this is coming from a person who doesn't even have a CFP, who may not even be as serious in this industry as someone like myself or our team. And so, you just have to watch out that if these advisors out there can be very strongly opinionated, and they may talk bad about specific firms that are doing the right thing because they may be jealous or they just may be not willing to put in that work, and they've done it forever and they've kind of stuck in their ways. And so I've heard a lot of advisors say you shouldn't work with a younger advisor, and I would honestly disagree with that very strongly. I know I'm biased, but a lot of clients that work with us say, hey, I'd like a doctor who's about 15, 20 years younger than me, my dentist 15, 20 years younger than me, and also my financial advisor is 15, 20 years longer than me, because I'm going to live a retirement and I want someone to be there for me. I want a consistent plan throughout retirement. I don't want to keep changing plans with different advisors, and now I'm behind because I got to get new, with this new program, this new advisor. And so, just have to be very aware with that. And, if your advisor hasn't done anything up to this point, and then they're talking bad about you making a switch to something that's in your better interest, I can tell you that, they're probably, there's a reason why they're getting upset. And the reason why is because they probably know they haven't been doing anything. They probably should have, but they know at this point there's nothing they can do about it. And so people just don't like losing, and especially when you lose revenue, that can cause it even worse. So, if that advisor that I'm specific talk to is getting ready to retire, and, if I was them, I'm thinking, hey, there's this young group that's really doing the right thing, and my client that I really enjoy serving and that I've served well over the years, if they get to have a better experience moving forward and ongoing, then I'd probably be for that. Obviously, that's not always the case. Plus, they're a captive firm that this comment came from. And so with a captive firm, that means they can't offer all the solutions out there. So hopefully that helps you kind of get some points in that last little rant I went on there. That was a personal story. But again, it's just an example of what to look for and what not to look for. And just some things that I've heard financial advisors say that I think will make you laugh. And just to understand that our opinion here at Peak Retirement Planning is that, if someone's a good advisor out there, if you're working with a great advisor, great job. There's some really good advisors out there, the ones that do the comprehensive planning, that specialize in tax planning. And if that's you, great. Someone who's a fiduciary, someone who's independent, and someone who's going to be consistently talking to you. The main reason why people leave their financial advisor is because of communication. So I would expect that person to reach out to you every quarter, meet with you at least once or twice a year. And if your advisor's doing all that, awesome work. That's great. We love those types of advisors. We are trying to educate. A lot of these videos I do, we have a lot of financial advisors that watch us. I coach and mentor a lot of advisors to get to that point. But for those advisors who are not doing the right thing, the advisors who are saying all these wrong things, just make sure you steer clear of those and make sure you find someone who is going to do what's in your best interest. So that's my little spiel for you here today. And if you are looking for specific help moving forward, feel free to reach out to us. That's what we're here for. It's what we do every day is plan retirements. We've got an awesome team here. We'll be glad to jump on a call with you just to see if we can add further guidance or not. And you can do so by clicking our link on our website at peakretirementplanning.com. Just apply now. If you're watching this from YouTube, there's a link in the description. And go ahead and subscribe, like the video, and we'll keep them coming. So enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you for listening to Joe Knows Retirement.
Since we do not know your specific situation, none of this information can serve as tax, legal, insurance, or financial advice and may be outdated or inaccurate. The information comes from sources believed to be reliable but cannot be guaranteed. This content is prepared for educational purposes only. If you need advice, please contact a qualified CPA, attorney, insurance agent, financial advisor, or the appropriate professional for the subject you would like help with. Peak Retirement Planning, Inc. is an Ohio-based registered investment advisor and able to offer advisory services in Ohio and in other states where registered or exempt from registration.